As they came to the gates, Círdan the Shipwright came forth to greet them. Very tall he was, and his beard was long, and he was grey and old, save that his eyes were keen as stars, and he looked at them and bowed. Welcome to Tales of Arda, where we discuss and explore Middle-earth. Today's topic is the great Lord Círdan, the Shipwright, bearer of Narya, and one of the oldest elves left in Middle-earth by the end of the Third Age. Círdan likely awoke in the Bay of Cuvienen in the years of the trees. He was a Teleri and kin to both Elwë and Olwë, the kings of the Teleri. After the arrival of Orome, some elves decided to travel to Valinor. Among them was Círdan, who was eager to live in Aman. Throughout the journey, many of Círdan's people forewent this journey, but when Elwë, his king, went missing, Círdan loyally searched for him, and so missed the first opportunity to sail to Valinor, on which many Noldor and Vanyar went. King Olwë, however, waited for Ulmo to return, but meanwhile he and his elves began building ships, and here Círdan became a renowned shipbuilder. This is actually the moment he takes the name Círdan, meaning shipwright, as before he was known as Nolwë. At the same time, although most of the Teleri had given up, Círdan sought Elwë longer and harder than most of his kin. Because of this, Círdan came to the shores too late, during the second embarking of Alystraea. He came to find them departed, and he saw far off a glimmer of light upon Alystraea as it vanished into the west. But into his heart came a message from the Valar, which warned him that his ship could not endure the voyage, nor would any ships for many years, until the time when his work would be of utmost worth. Círdan answered in obedience, and saw a vision of a ship. And so Círdan remained with the Teleri, who had chosen to stay in the east, and became their lord. The folk became known as the Falafrim, the people of the foaming shore, and dwelt in the Phallus by the sea. When Morgoth first unleashed his armies on Beleriand in 1497 of the Years of the Trees, Círdan was cut off and unable to come to Thingol's aid. Further, the Falafrim were driven to the very edge of the sea, where they were besieged for many months, until the return of the Noldor, when Fëanor struck Morgoth from the north. The orcs withdrew of the siege of Phallus and went northwards to help their armies, but they were destroyed by Celegorm. Later, Círdan attended the Mereth Adeithad with many of his kin, where he swore oaths of friendship with the Noldor. Between Círdan and Finrod Felagund there was a friendship and alliance, and with the aid of the Noldor, the havens of Brythonbar and Eglarest were rebuilt. During the second assault on Hithlum, Círdan aided the Noldor and came timely to the aid of Fingon. The ships of Círdan sailed up the Firth of Drungist in great strength, and then attacked the orcs, giving victory to the elves. After the Nirnafanodiad, many fugitives came for shelter in Círdan's havens. The Falafrim mariners attacked the orcs from the sea, but it was only a matter of time before Morgoth attacked. Then came the disastrous fall of the Phallus. Though both Brythonbar and Eglarest were strong, with mighty walls, they both fell to Morgoth's armies. Although Círdan's people fought valiantly, the walls were broken and most of the Falafrim were enslaved. Barad Nimras was cast down, and the Phallus laid to waste, but Círdan and some of his followers escaped by sea, and he took with him Gil-galad, one of the last princes of the Noldor. They came to the Isle of Valar and found a new refuge. Turgon, receiving the dreadful news, requested that Círdan send mariners to seek Valinor and the aid of the Valar. Círdan built 7 swift ships and sent them westwards. None returned save only one mariner of Gondolindrum, who was his kinsman. Eventually Círdan received a message from Ulmo for Orodreth, warning of the doom of Nargothrond and ordering him to shut his gates and cast down the bridge. The warning went unheeded, resulting in the fall of Nargothrond. After news came to Valar of the fall of Gondolin, Gil-galad was proclaimed High King of the Noldor. Círdan soon after became a fast friend of the young half-elf Eärendil, son of Tur and Idril. Círdan aided Eärendil in building the ship Vingolot. He doubtless remembered his vision, and this ship was indeed a fulfillment of it. Círdan and Gil-galad came with their ships from Valar too late to prevent the disastrous third kinslaying, where the havens of Círdan were ambushed by the fair Norians. But Eärendil was not there, rather on the voyage, and the Silmaril of Bern and Lúthien had been taken by Elwing his wife to him. Thus, wielding the Silmaril, Eärendil came to Valinor and found the forgiveness of the Valar. After the War of Wrath, Círdan heeded the bidding of the Valar, but once more stayed in the west of Middle-earth and did not depart into the true west of Aman. There he was friends with the Númenóreans and was lord of the Grey Havens. He was a councillor and one of the members of the White Council of the Second Age. Círdan advised against the creation of the Rings of Power when Annatar came, but like Galadriel, his counsels went unheeded in the midst of the ambitions of the Gwaith y Myrddin. Nevertheless, the 3 rings were hidden. Celebrimbor had appointed him to inherit one of them, and so Círdan received Narya, the Ring of Fire. Sauron, having revealed himself in the destruction of Eregion, had empowered by the one ring he had forged, invaded Eregion, and was near to taking Eärendil as well, but to the help of the Númenóreans he was pushed back to Mordor. Later, Círdan joined the last alliance of men and elves and fought alongside Gil-galad. Many fell there, including Gil-galad and Eärendil. After the battle with Elrond, he urged Isildur to throw the One Ring into Orodruin, where it would be unmade, but Isildur refused. After the War of the Last Alliance and the death of Gil-galad, Círdan ruled the Elves of Lindon from the Grey Havens. For more than 1,000 years they went undisturbed, but at around 1050 of the Third Age, a shadow began to lengthen. It was at this time the Istari, sent by the Valar, came. Círdan was the most foresighted of all the beings in Middle-earth, and he alone knew the true purpose of the Istari. He also saw deep in the future of Gandalf, and gave him Narya, his greatest possession, and one of the most secret and sought-after treasures in Middle-earth. Throughout the Angmar War, the Elves of Lindon under Círdan supported Arnor. They assisted Arveleg and the men of Cartolin to drive off the hillmen from the Weather Hills. Later, with Círdan's help, Arveleg's young son, Arathor, drove Angmar's armies from Fornost and the North Downs, combined forces from Rivendell and the Galathrim, who joined them from beyond the Misty Mountains. They subdued Angmar for some time. In 1975 of the Third Age, Círdan sent elven sailors from Lindon on a ship to Thorkel to rescue the lost king Arvedui. The crew endured a perilous journey, but Arvedui rashly attempted to return that winter, and all aboard perished. The next year, Círdan and the Elves of Lindon joined the remainder of the forces of Arnor in the victorious Battle of Fornost. Later, Círdan took control of the abandoned Eärendil store on Emin Bereid, which could gaze into the lost west and was without link to the other Palantiri. Nothing more is mentioned of his actions until the War of the Ring in Third Age 318, and later the year 1319. Galdor was his messenger to Rivendell and attended the Council of Elrond, speaking on his behalf. At the end of the Third Age, the ring-bearers came to Mithlond. Círdan greeted them before the gates, although Gandalf, Galadriel, and Elrond passed west on the ship he had built for them. Círdan seemed to have remained for a little time. Círdan maintained the havens at least until the early Fourth Age, but he eventually recognized that its purpose was no more. Elves wished to cross the sea, and Círdan offered them their grant. At this time, Círdan would abandon the great havens and finally travel the straight road to Valinor. On some unknown date he sailed west aboard the last ship with his mighty kinsman Celeborn, but when he did so he took with him the last living memory of the elder days in Middle-earth. We hope you enjoy this in-depth history of Círdan. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe.